be quizzing you.
Come on!
But I've already sent out the sermon notes. Essentially, we're going to be looking at the cross. And so it is the quintessential, most important thing about Christianity. And this is, of course not towards the end. But after we've gone through, okay, this is what a disciple is, this is what sin is, now we are giving people, this is the one reason of why you are called to change. It is the cross. Without the cross, we can't do anything else. And so this Bible study is one of the most important things. And before you do it with somebody, you need to, revise, understand what you are trying to tell that person. Because it's very easy. And this cross study is not just for the non-Christians. This is for us Christians too. Many times through our discipleship life, we will need to hear the cross study once or twice. Because let's be honest, as we live as disciples, it's very easy to become man-focused. That's the reason of why we take the communion. The reason is, this is Jesus' body and blood, the one that was given in Last Supper, of which he was about to go to the cross. Now we need to remember that when we are weak spiritually, it's the cross that helps us go back to why we're Christians in the first place. And so it's always bringing people to the foot of the cross. And so the purpose of this Bible study is first to hate sin. It's too often we do a Bible study with somebody and we go, oh, you're just a sinner, you have to change this. No. We hate the sin. We're all sinners in the same sense. We've all committed something bad in front of God, and we must hate the sin and call someone to change out of an appreciation of God's love through Jesus' sacrifice. We're not calling people to repent because I told you so, not because the Bible told you so, but because the Bible has called Christ to do so, at least to go on the cross for you, out of gratitude. Too often we get bogged down about Christianity. We get bitter at people. We get bitter at God. Because it sometimes becomes a competition of who has done more right things, who is right, and how much you didn't receive what you deserve. It's our brothers and sisters trying to bicker. I did more than you. I shared more than you. I read more Bible than you. I'm spiritual. It's about this leader said that. This leader says that. It's about who has done more. It's about things we expect that doesn't happen. Hey God, I've been a disciple 7 years. I should be married. I've been a disciple 8 years. I should be fruitful. I'm a disciple for 10 years. Something.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's always been about what Jesus done through his death.
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
And at the end of it all, Jesus has done more than any one of us.
Yeah.
We can bicker about how much you've planted this Bible talk, evangelized, and all these things. And yet you forget that without the cross, this evangelism, the things that you do for Christianity, means nothing.
Yeah.
And when you stand at the foot of a cross and you look at Jesus straight, eye to eye, him battered and bruised, all the wounds, all the pain, all the suffering, his sleepless nights, you can't dare boast about what you've done. Because at the foot of it all, Jesus has done more. When we study the Bible with other people, especially with the study, people can understand things intellectually. Yeah, I know Jesus died for me. Okay, cool. The Catholic Church taught me this. My parents taught me this. But there's always an emotional disconnect. But you need to make sure that this study clicks with them. Maybe the person you're studying the Bible doesn't want to evangelize. Maybe they don't really have a serious heart to read their Bibles. At times, their heart and their head, that's the furthest distance you can ever have in a human being. They get it up here. But here, it still needs to take time. When the heart doesn't wrap around the cross, the actions don't follow. And that is something that we're trying to unblock. And so when you're studying the Bible with other people, you need to make sure that you tailor this Bible study to them. You go, how are your struggles? Maybe that person is suffering through physical persecution with family. You need to tailor the study to go, hey, Jesus was persecuted as well. And yet he persevered. So can you. Maybe that person was struggling through physical abuse from parents. Then you need to tailor that study for that. Maybe one of the studies we have is deeply unforgiving towards their family. Then we have to go, hey, you have to look at how Jesus went through all of this pain and still decided to forgive. So you need to aim at the right things. And so going through it, and I mentioned this many times, the cross is the foundation of Christianity. Sin hurts both God and us. And yet Jesus, being fully God and fully human, decided to put down his feelings and still humble himself before God. And so there's a lot of different parts to this. The Passion of the Christ, part 1. And then we're going to be mainly staying in the book of Matthew. Matthew 26, verse 31 to 35. Then Jesus told them, this very night you will all fall away on account of me. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee. Peter replied, even if all fall away on account of you, I never will. Truly I tell you, Jesus answered, this very night before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. But Peter declared, even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you. And all the other disciples said the same. What is Peter really trying to say? Peter was proud. I will never betray you. And it's very easy for us to say the same thing. I will never leave Christianity. I will always be faithful to Jesus. Sometimes we can say that as we sit here. And yet we need to be careful that we don't be like Peter. At times when we read this passage, we go, oh yeah, Peter built a church. He's a great guy. All the disciples, they were great. And yet Jesus goes, no. All of you will fall away. Too often we can put the blame on Judas, who also fell away and committed suicide. But note this, that all of the disciples fell away at this point in time, or at least after that. Jesus predicted that all of his disciples would fall away. And Jesus predicted that everyone would fall away. And even Jesus said, hey, Peter, you will be sifted. You will be sifted through all of this. But don't worry, I will pray for you. That's what Jesus said, I will pray for you. And you hear that, you go, okay, Satan's going to sift me like wheat. And the only thing Jesus could do for me is pray for me? God could do more for me. Could give me a wife and maybe make me more, stand stronger in the faith. Maybe Jesus could give me more money so I could be more faithful. But Jesus goes, no. I'll pray for you. You have to understand that being a Christian will put you at the greatest pain and the greatest amount of struggles. And we have to put that into context, because many times before we were a Christian, the struggles that we think before we became a Christian, it could be, inflated. Before we became a Christian, we go, talking to one man, impossible. I can't bear myself to do that. One guy on HKU, all the same age as me, and I'm living in a nice cushy dorm, free from distractions, I'm full, I have money in the bank, sharing with one person, oh my gosh, so hard. And yet now when we become, and too often we can become emotional about that. But now as a Christian, the struggles that we go through right now is much greater than when we first got baptized. You need to count the cost to see your friends, your family persecute you. That you now have to become a Christian on your very last dime. I'm not sure when, but I'm very sure that this happened to me, that you have to be a Christian and you see your bank account dwindle to 1 cent. Will you still become a Christian? Actually, 1 cent. Actually, negative. In Sydney. And we've all been there, and we're going to go there. I'm sorry to say. Now, you're going to be a Christian, and especially when your visas get rejected. When the country that you think you deserve permanent residence will reject you. When you will be wildly misunderstood, hurt by the people that called you their brothers and sisters. Will you still be a Christian? You know, what would make you stop following Jesus? If I was Satan, what would I need to use to make you struggle? And for each and every person, it's very different. But I think at this point in time, I think a lot of it is anger. For myself, it's anger. And you go, what? Matthew, what? When have you been angry? Hopefully that's something you've been thinking about. But there are many prayers where I just shouted at God, going, this disciple can't do this, can't do this, can't do this right, can't do this right. Brother, this problem is so minuscule. Get over it. And I fail to forget that, even Moses was not able to enter the actual kingdom, to go into the promised land because of anger. And for each and every one of us, it's one thing after the other. Last week, I realized this anger is now, partly entitlement, a deep sense of it. And that's the reason why I studied it out. But you need to understand what will take you out. Matthew 26:36-46, we continue. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, sit here while I go over there and pray. He took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. Going a little further, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, my Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will. Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour? He asked Peter. Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. He went away a second time and prayed, my Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done. When he came back, he again found them sleeping, because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the third time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come, and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer. Jesus didn't want to die. He chose to die. It was an emotional struggle up until this point. Somewhere in the religiosity that we think that Jesus wanted to die. His sole purpose in this earth was to die. He was a human being, like all of us. And if you didn't want to die, that's the same feeling he had. And that he had to struggle to pray. He didn't want to be flogged. He didn't want to be betrayed. He didn't want to die. And just like that, many of us have things we don't want to do. Just as Jesus didn't want to die, just as Jesus didn't want to get flogged, so there are things you don't want to do. And the one thing he had to do was to go and pray to overcome these temptations. And prayer enabled Jesus to bear the cross. And so if I had to ask you, if Jesus had to pray the exact prayers that you prayed today, do you think Jesus would have gone to the cross? Would Jesus' prayer be short? Would the Bible even record that prayer?
Wow, dang.
Or would it just be, and Jesus, quote unquote, prayed? Would that be said about your prayers?
Come on, preach.
Jesus prayed 3 times, and each time more emotion came out every single time. And many times you pray once, and the first one is the surface prayer. You just prayed because you had to. Prayer number 2, that's where the real emotions come out. Now you say, okay, God, this is my sin. And then the third prayer, that's where you go, oh wow, God, I'm actually just selfish. That's when you're really in touch with God. He prayed till he felt resolved. And so let me tell you, if your prayer life right now, if your prayer life didn't change until the day you died, will you still be faithful?
Preach.
How much more does your prayer life need to level up?
Yeah, come on.
And I'm very grateful, I think, for the Hong Kong church. I think Chi, the man that set up the church before, I think one of his deep convictions was always to go and pray.
Yes.
And I still remember every year we would go out and we would just have an all-night prayer.
Yeah.
I think one time he did it every week.
Yeah.
Around the Hong Kong Coliseum. That was fun. We were trying to mirror the Jericho prayer, and we were like, God, make this Coliseum collapse as the Jericho wall collapsed. We were praying like that. And some of the guys, we prayed on HKU and all these other things. But one of the deep cultures we had was just deep prayer. And I remember we would pray around Discovery Bay, and we would just pass out at the canteen outside. And it was a vibe. But that was the standard for us, for me at least. And I'm very grateful because, when I am troubled, that's the only thing I would always resort to. Just go on an all-night prayer. And I think for you, it's the same thing. It's like, what is your standard on prayer? Does your prayer need to be increased to get to a point like this? Is your current prayer life helping you overcome your struggles? Is your struggles overcoming your prayer? Well, we keep going. Matthew 26:47-56. While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd armed with swords and clubs, sent from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. The one I kiss is the man, arrest him. Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. Jesus replied, "Do what you came for, friend." Then the men stepped forward, seized Jesus, and arrested him. With that, one of Jesus' companions, Peter, reached for his sword, drew it out, and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. "Put your sword back in its place," Jesus said to him, "for all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen in this way?" In that hour, Jesus said to the crowd, "Am I leading a rebellion, that you have come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I sat in the temple courts teaching, and you did not arrest me. But this has all taken place, that the writings of the prophets might be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and fled. Have you ever been put in a situation where you were in incredible danger? Well, Jesus' disciples have, to even see Roman soldiers come in. Have you ever feared for your life? And for most of us here in Hong Kong, it's easy life. We stay indoors. The weather is almost always perfect. MTR is incredible. Yeah, that's amazing. But I'm not sure if you've been here when, not only the pandemic, but when the protests happened. And if you've experienced that, then you'd experience, wow, the police is right over there. You'd experience real danger. I remember even before when we were having church by Jordan, and we were having Bible studies with a friend, and we were just finishing eating, and all of a sudden we started crying. We're like, oh, why are we suddenly crying? This is not even an emotional Bible study. But 5 minutes away, that's where they were throwing the tear gas. And that was actually the site along Nathan Road. Along Nathan Road, that's where the actual protest actually happened. And then we would walk home. And the walk home was like 20 minutes, and we're fine. But when you would see, in the past when we were living in the brother's household 8 floors up, that's when the protest also happened. But because we didn't have a lift, we were all safe. 8 floors up, we were just looking down. But then the tear gas started going up. And then one of the disciples actually couldn't cross to her house, which is a 5-minute walk away. So then he had to sleep. She had to sleep over. But in that moment, I was like, whoa. People were throwing bricks. People were throwing tear gas. People were chucking everything. People were equipping themselves with arrows. We were walking down the Homanton Bridge, and in the distance, 100 meters away, is 5 policemen fully clad in riot shields. And in moments like that, you'd go, oh my gosh, this feels like a war zone. When I was riding the Sydney Tube, for some of you guys, I've ridden the Sydney Rail, And I rode it at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And I'm telling you, don't take the train in Sydney at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. It's open 24 hours. Yeah, so the metro. Yeah, it's a very dangerous thing. And where I was living at that time is Newtown. That's where all the bars are, and all the people who would take drugs. And it's a very dangerous spot. So there was one time I came back home late, and there was one of the girls who was on influence. I think we could tell it. She was on influence, and two burly men standing there. And then the woman was like touching the guy's face and all these different things. And then the man was like, "Don't touch me again. I'll show you what I can do." The doors open, and these two burly men push the girl off onto the platform. The girl stood back up, went back on the train as if nothing happened, and proceeded to taunt the men again. And I was like, I'm a tourist. I've been here like 3 months. What do I do? And in that moment, I didn't really know what to do. So against all my strength, I put my arm to separate the two of them. Hopefully not to. And I was scared to my life. And I was like, my next station is my home. I need to get off. Happily, nothing happened, at least, you know. But the reason I share this is, have you gotten into moments like that? And most of the time, you know, I'm pretty sure you'd try to run away. But if you were in this situation with Jesus and his disciples, would you have run away? Well, have you had run away? Were you ever put in a place where your faith would then corner you in a point of danger? And how would you have reacted? And as you see that, Jesus, of course, being confronted by the Roman soldiers, saw the disciples that he has trained for 3 or more years just run away. And we see here, you know, Jesus could have called 12 legions to save him. And 12 legions would approximately be 60,000 angels. And if you read the Bible, one angel could defeat a couple 100,000 people, men. So 60,000 angels is overkill, essentially. But were you put in a place and were you tempted to ever fight back? Well, Jesus was tempted. Jesus could have fought back, yet did nothing. And yet you look here, and Judas was on the side claiming to be a friend. And who was Judas? Afterwards, we obviously see that Judas fell away spiritually, committed suicide. And I bet you Jesus, knowing that Jesus, who was God, also knew Judas had passed away. Yet the better question we need to ask is, will you allow someone doing bad spiritually affect you spiritually? You know, what if your best friend left God? How would you have reacted? You know, being a disciple for seven-ish years and Lana about to celebrate her 10th. It's both good and bad. Good because you see, you know, great friends that you never thought would grow to become amazing disciples like that. Married, have kids, and all these different things. It's incredible. But on the one hand, you know, being a disciple 7 years, sadly you get to see disciplers fall away. Men you always thought were mature, who read the Bible more than you, sadly fall away in sin. That you see many of your disciples yourself, the ones that you've trained, the ones that you've taught, poured hours in, cried over, some fall away. But will that shake your faith? And will that make you doubt God? You know, when we study the Bible with people, one thing that we always ask people is like, hey, if you were the only disciple, the only Christian in Hong Kong, will you have the faith to start a church again? And that question becomes more real, especially when you see your disciple fall away. Your disciple, your leader, fall away. Will you choose to step up? Go, this is the faith that God has given me, and I need to do more. Or will you go, oh, this God business is not for me? Well, we keep going. Matthew 26, 57 to 68.
Come on, Matthew.
Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled. But Peter followed him at a distance, right up to the courtyard of the high priest. He entered and sat down with the guards to see the outcome. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death. But they did not find any. Though many false witnesses came forward, finally 2 came forward and declared, "This fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days." Then the high priest stood up and said to Jesus, "Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, "I charge you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." "You have said so," Jesus replied. "But I say to all of you, from now on you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One, and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, now you have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" "He is worthy of death," they answered. And then they spit in his face and struck him with their fists. Others slapped him and said, "Prophesy to us, Messiah. Who hit you?" So who is persecuting Jesus here at this time? Is it the religious people or the non-religious people? And you'd be surprised. It's the religious people. Those who have studied about God, those who've memorized, at this point, the Bible front to back, are the very people that persecuted Jesus, who claimed to have done no bad thing. Are you ready to receive persecution from religious people? And you have to ask, why are religious people, those who claim to know God, the ones heaping abuse on God's people? Well, you have to, and that's a scary thing. The pain you will suffer most is rejection from non-Christians. But the pain you will receive from those that claim to be religious hurt more. Why? Is because you think first and foremost that they believe in God, they claim to love God, they claim to follow the ideals, the values of God, and yet they do at times out of sentimentality or perhaps out of no knowledge of the Bible hurt you. It is painful, as we study the Bible with people, those that you've called your best friends, those you've shouted meals, those you've really poured in time, those you've invited over to your homes. And they said, "Yeah, I'm your friend. Yeah, I want to honor God." Only in a week's time say, No. My family said this about you. And in that moment you go, so is the love that I've given you fake? Have you not valued the things that I've given you? And all of a sudden, as a person you feel, why is this happening? I've just given my heart to someone. And yet many religious people, they persecute godly men. Why? Because at these times, they're emboldened. You go, no. My family is more important. My sin is more important. What I've lived in the past is more important than these people I've met for 2 weeks. And that's the reason why they're emboldened to do what they choose to do. At times it's a sin of the religious to be self-righteous, to be emboldened to persecute. And we have to be careful. How are you towards slander? People will lie about you as they will suit their own narratives. And even at this point, Jesus, in the face of persecution, in the face of slander, didn't say a word. What would it take for Satan to get you to sin? Because at this point, Jesus was thrown slander. Jesus was thrown abuse. Jesus was thrown all forms of unrighteousness and injustice. Yet it wasn't a license for him to do vengeance. And yet for all of us, we go, if God is not going to bless me and my efforts with baptism, I'm going to find it my way. I'm going to go and sin. I've had up to this point of slander, up to this of persecution. I can do whatever I want. It's not God's problem. I would like to be spiritual, But that brother, that sister is stopping me to be spiritual. I'd like to be spiritual, but the money in my bank account is stopping me. God, this is your problem. I want to be spiritual. I want to be spiritual, but the pressure. The university is stopping me from being spiritual. The university is stopping me from having good, quiet times. Too bad. And I think the greatest thing that we can ever take from the cross is Jesus removed all kinds of excuse. As you will read, as Jesus goes up to the cross, Jesus was given painkillers and still refused it. Yeah. And Jesus is given all of these reasons to fight back, to prove himself, and still never did. And now we continue with 3 responses to the cross. Matthew 26, 69 to 75. Now Peter is sitting out in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him. You also were with Jesus of Galilee, she said. But he denied it before them all. I don't know you. I don't know what you're talking about, he said. Then he went out in the gateway where another servant girl saw him and said to the people there, this fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth. He denied again with an oath, I don't know the man. After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, surely you are one of them. Your accent gives you away. Then he began to call down curses and he swore to them, I don't know the man. Immediately a rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken. Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. And he went outside and he wept bitterly. Peter disowns Jesus just as Jesus has prophesied. And what he's talking about is the sin of cowardice. Why? Because Peter was broken at the heart level. It was at that point that he understood, this is my sin. That he showed, he cried a lot, but it was what he chose to do afterwards that mattered. Sure. Until you can get broken about your sin, you won't change. Sure. And you need to act like Peter, to man up, to be broken, to meet and have a face-to-face with Jesus, and then you can change. Come on. I was sitting in a lot of cross studies, even at the GMC in London. Light and Darkness and Cross. But then we were studying the Bible with this guy, and even recently in Hong Kong, we sat up in a lot of these sin studies and cross studies. And there's a point where with the person in front of me started laughing. Oh, wow. Not laughing as in but it was being playful. Hey, Jesus did this for you. He went on the cross. Yeah, but I'm not that. I'm okay. I understand Jesus died for me. I get that. But he was playing jokes. He was making the situation lighter, which is sometimes we do that. And yet at times that is what our body wants to do, to lighten the load of the cross. And yet the weight of sin needs to be felt. You need to feel the weight of your sin. Why? Because if you don't understand how much that has pained Jesus, then it's very difficult to change. Yeah. Until you see your sin, you cannot be broken. If you feel that there's nothing wrong with smoking, nothing wrong with sexual sin, nothing wrong with being moody, nothing wrong with being selfish, you can't change.
Preach. Come on.
And you have to nail that.
Yeah. Come on,
And
bro.
I'm very grateful that the disciples challenged me to go on this all-night prayer before, when I was studying to become a Christian. Because I was this man. I was entitled. I was complacent. I'm not that bad of a Christian. That guy over there murdered someone. That guy over there did worse things. And I'm okay. But then I'm very grateful for, the guys challenged me to fast for 2 days. And it took me understanding, wow, I'm no better than Jesus. I'm no better than anyone. And I had to understand that. Do you understand that it is your sin that first put Jesus on the cross? Do you understand the pain that you have? If your parents knew of all the sin that you've done, would you be laughing? And God knows all about your sin. Are you still laughing? Peter had to go through all of that out of this cowardness. Peter was within Jesus' group the most coward, the most dull, most stupid, the most scared of all the apostles. And yet he was the one that started it all, that brought the kingdom and the church to a different level.
Come on.
And in this time, you encourage the person, if Peter could change, all of us can.
Yeah.
Going to another person. Matthew 27, 1-10.
Come on.
Early in the morning, all the chief priests and the elders of the people made their plans, how to have Jesus executed. So they bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate the governor. When Judas, who had betrayed him, saw that Jesus was condemned, he was seized with remorse and returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. I've sinned, he said, for I have betrayed innocent blood. What is that to us? They replied. That's your responsibility. So Judas threw the money into the temple and left. Then he went away and hanged himself. The chief priests picked up the coins and said, it is against the law to put this into the treasury, since it is blood money. So they decided to use the money to buy the potter's field as a burial place for foreigners. That is why it has been called the field of blood to this day. Then what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet was fulfilled. They took the 30 pieces of silver, the price set on him by the people of Israel, and they used them to buy the potter's field. And the Lord commanded me. You know, Jesus is handed over to Pilate, the Roman governor. But Judas, at this time, he understood the sin of betrayal. He understood what he had done. But instead of changing, instead of repenting, instead of going back to Jesus, he simply gave up. He felt sad, but that sadness did not mean much. And he took his own life. And as we do this study, there are 3 responses to the cross. One, you can repent and you can be Peter. But sadly, the other response is to commit spiritual suicide. What does that mean? You numb out. You run away from the sin that Jesus confronted you.
Wow. Come on.
That you are now blaming other things. And most importantly, you give up. You know, this sin it's too much. I can't do it. For most of my life, this is what I've been doing. It's my family, it's my culture to sin this way. I can't do it. You know, I've been a disciple for this long and I can't escape this sin. I'm too much. I'm beyond saving. My sin is who I am. I can't see myself changing now. You know, there are better things for me to do than repent. I can be earning money. I could be living in a nice 500 square foot penthouse. Who needs to repent? Keep going. Matthew 27, 11-26. Meanwhile, Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "You have said so," Jesus replied. When he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate asked him, "Don't you hear the testimony they are bringing against you?" But Jesus made no reply, not even to a single charge. To the great amazement of the governor, now it was the governor's custom at that festival to release a prisoner chosen by the crowd. At that time, they had a well-known prisoner whose name was Jesus Barabbas. So when the crowd had gathered, Pilate asked him, "Which one do you want me to release to you? Jesus Barabbas or Jesus who is called the Messiah?" For he knew it was out of self-interest that they handed Jesus over to him. While Pilate was sitting at the judge's seat, his wife sent him this message: "Don't have anything to do with that innocent man, for I have suffered a great deal today in a dream because of him." But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus executed. "Which of the two do you want me to release to you?" asked the governor. "Barabbas," they answered. "What shall I do then with this Jesus who is called the Messiah?" Pilate asked them. They all answered, "Crucify him." "Why? What crime has he committed?" asked Pilate. But they shouted all louder, "Crucify him." When Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere, but instead an uproar was starting, he took water and washed his hands in front of the crowd. "I'm innocent of this man's blood." He said, "It is your responsibility." All the people answered, "His blood is on us and on our children." Then you released Barabbas to them, but he had Jesus flogged and handed him over to be crucified. Out of everyone, apart from God, Pilate had the greatest authority to release Jesus, yet still denied it. And it is one of the sins that is not included in the Bible, but it's the sin of indecision. I got 50 more years in my life. I don't have to be a Christian now. I can keep going. That Pilate chose to be popular than to be righteous. Are you willing to stand up against your family, your friends, your colleagues, anyone that can take you away from being a Christian? We forget we're all Barabbas in this story. We deserve to be crucified for our sins. And most of the time, we desire to be like, we think we deserve to be Pilate, to want power. We're trying to win conversations, prove a point, but that's not what Jesus is about. Jesus, at this point, was wrong in front of all these men. And he took that. Even being faced with wrong, the unrighteous and the unspiritual, he still had faith that God would work. And so even in our situations, we strive and we fight to be right. But in front of man, Jesus didn't continue. He was surrendered to God. And so as a Christian, are you ready to be submissive? To submit yourself to God's plan before anything else. We keep going. Matthew 27:27-44. Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him and then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. They put a staff in his right hand, then they knelt in front of him and mocked him. "Hail, King of the Jews," they said. They spit on him, took the staff and struck him on the head again and again. After they had mocked him, they took off the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. As Jesus was going out, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they forced him to carry the cross. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. There they offered Jesus wine to drink, mixed with gall, but after tasting it, he refused to drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes by casting lots, and sitting down, they kept watch over him. Above his head, they placed a written charge against him. "This is Jesus, King of the Jews." 2 rebels were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, You who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. Come down from the cross if you're the Son of God. In the same way, the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders mocked him. He saved others, they said, but he can't save himself. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him now, if he wants him, for he said, "I am the Son of God." In the same way, the rebels who were crucified with him also heaped insults on him. At this point, you might want to summarize the events leading up to the crucifixion to the guy you're studying a Bible with. But what was the difference between Jesus' thinking and all the people that were standing by? All the people that were standing by wanted success in the world. They wanted Jesus to prove himself that he was God. Well, you could just remove yourself from the cross. Call your angels and prove everyone wrong. And yet Jesus was more interested in showing his self-denial to honor God. Yeah. And that is what Jesus has called us. Imagine if Jesus called in the Bible, hey, disciples need to do miracle A, miracle B, miracle C. No. If you've gone through the Bible, Jesus always told us to be humble, deny yourself, give up everything. Yeah. If Jesus commanded you to walk on water, if Jesus commanded you to heal leprosy, well, we can abuse that and honor ourselves with it. But, obviously we can't do that. But God, again, chose his humility to mark his ministry. You know, Jesus' crucifixion was the most incredible. To see that even though he had painkillers through the gall and the wine, he refused it. He had powers to prove everyone that he was right, still refused to use it. He was right theologically, logically, yet refused to show it. He was God, yet continued to walk the path of a human. So what excuse are you using? And would these excuses fly in front of Jesus? And how would you then personally respond to these hurts and to these suffering? Is what you have to give up still harder than what Jesus had to go through? You know, when I was studying the Bible, one of the biggest things that I had to actually repent from is my hate towards my roommate. And if not him, obviously. Before I was a Christian, I lived in the dorms of Poly U. And my roommate was a mainlander who worked in finance, so he came home at 2 a.m. or something like that. And then he would play PUBG. And if you guys know PUBG, it's very, anyways. Essentially, he would play from midnight till 3 a.m. And we were this meter apart. This is my bed and this is his bed. And he would sit there playing, cursing in Chinese. Me partially understanding what that meant while I was trying to fall asleep.
Wow.
And for 3 months, I developed this bitterness towards him. I hate this guy. And I came to church and you asked the other sisters. I always complained about him. I hate this guy. Man, he's annoying. He's doing this to me, doing this to me, doing this to me. And then she came to me and said, you said you're a Christian, right? I wasn't at that time. I challenge you to go buy him a meal. I was like, him? Bro, my money is worth more than him. But the one thing that really nailed me when we did the cross, and he goes, well, if you were standing in front of Jesus, bloodied and everything, you go, Jesus, I can't do it. This guy has hurt me more than people have hurt you. How arrogant is that? You know, Jesus, I can't be giving. I can't evangelize one person. It's too much. Jesus, bloodied over there on the cross, goes, that's okay, son. I did it here. I think you can do it too.
Come on.
The greatest thing about Jesus is he never proved himself. It was through his sacrifice that honored that. And we keep going. 2 more scriptures. Matthew 27:45-56. From noon until there in the afternoon, darkness came over all the land. About 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of those standing there heard this, they said, he's calling Elijah. Immediately, one of them ran and got a sponge. He filled it with wine vinegar, put it on a staff, and offered it to Jesus to drink. The rest said, now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah came to save him. And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two, from top to bottom. The earth shook, the rocks split, and the tombs broke open. The bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. They came out of the tombs after Jesus' resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared to many people. When the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and all that had happened, they were terrified and exclaimed, surely he was the Son of God. Many women were there, watching from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee to care for his needs. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons. You know, imagine feeling all the guilt of all the sins you've ever committed in your life in one moment. At this time, you remember the time that you lied to your parents. You lied and you cheated them to get more lunch money. Maybe you remember that a decade ago. Maybe you remember the lie or the gossip that you told a friend that broke someone's relationship. Maybe at this time you remember the guilt of when you told your parents you hated them. You remember the shame that you felt when you just finished masturbating or watching pornography? That at this moment you felt the guilt of when people found out that you were lying. In one instant, you felt all of this guilt, all of this shame. Now imagine multiplying that by 1 trillion people. That at the point of the cross, Jesus felt all of the sins, all the shame, all the guilt, every rape committed by mankind, every murder and the grief it has caused, every mass murder, every pedophilia, every form of impurity that man has ever committed. Imagine taking all of that. And Jesus on the cross, the only time that he felt abandoned by God. Because we understand that sin separates man and God. Now Jesus left heaven, and this was the only time that he has ever felt that God was distant from him. This is what Jesus had to go through. 2 Corinthians 5 verse 21, I'll make it quick. God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. You know, we did all of this out of love to change us that we may turn away from our sin. Rather, Jesus did all of this. Jesus became sin on the cross for us, even though we might never repent. And this is the goal. Too often we become Christians, we get so entwined with the I must do blank. You know, I'm very, very humbled, you know, when I shared with Owen on the streets in Whampoa. It's hard. If you think sharing on campus is hard, go with the working professionals. And you know, I was sharing in Whampoa, and I was really happy because I met some PolyU students. This is one of the great things. But then after a long day, and you shared with them, and you get rejected, left, right, center. I can't speak Cantonese, and your motivation of why you are there in the first place really comes out. Why am I even here? And if that motivation is not Jesus and the cross, you're not going to stay faithful.
Come on.
We keep going. Matthew 27, 57 to 61. As evening approached, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who had himself become a disciple of Jesus. Going to Pilate, he asked for Jesus' body, and Pilate ordered that it might be given to him. Joseph took the body, wrapped in a clean linen cloth, and placed it in his own new tomb that he had cut out of the rock. He rolled a big stone in front of the entrance to the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were sitting there opposite the tomb. You know, Jesus was buried here in a rich man's tomb. It fulfilled the prophecy in Isaiah 53. And this was the only time Jesus felt rich. It's when he was dead. But think about it. Many people who were rich at this time longed to die this way. And Jesus, not as rich as many, died the same way many people only dreamt of. Only living a different life. Keep going. Matthew 27, 62 to 66. The next day, the one after preparation day, the chief priests and the Pharisees went to Pilate. Sir, they said, we remember that while he was still alive, that deceiver said, after 3 days I will rise again. So give the order for the tomb to be made secure until the third day. Otherwise the disciples may come and steal the body, and tell the people that he has been raised from the dead. This last deception will be worse than the first. Take a guard, Pilate answered. Go make the tomb as secure as you know. So they went and made the tomb secure by putting a seal in the stone and posting the guard. You know, everyone knew exactly where Jesus was buried. Many people claim that, many of the disciples got the wrong tomb. That's why it was empty. No. If you knew a celebrity, everybody would know where a celebrity would have died. Because it would be on the news. To the point that the Roman government even had to send soldiers. So it was a big thing. You can't miss a tomb with 2 security guards in front of it. Back then, nobody was rich enough to do that. And yet, so people, when they say, oh, they got the wrong tomb, it's impossible for them to get the wrong tomb.
Yeah.
And yet, the Christian faith is founded on these 2 things. That Jesus died for our sins, and that Jesus died and resurrected.
Yep.
So, apart from dying for our sins, we need to also make sure that we know that he had resurrected. And Matthew 28, 1 to 10. Closing off now. After the Sabbath at dawn, the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to look at the tomb. There's a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, and going to the tomb, rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes were as white as snow. The guards were so afraid of him that they shook him and became like dead men. The angel said to the woman, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus, who was crucified. He is not here. He is risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay, then go quickly and tell his disciples. He is risen from the dead and is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him. Now I've told you." So the women hurried away from the tomb, afraid yet filled with joy, and ran to tell his disciples. Suddenly Jesus met them. "Greetings," he said. They came to him and clasped his feet and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me." And so at this point we understand, hey, Jesus is risen. This is the greatest part of the whole narrative of the Bible, that there is hope. That you tell the people, like, hey, you've gone through all of this sin. This is what you've done in the past, but that doesn't matter, because now there's greater hope. And I'll wrap up with just one more, in Isaiah 53, verse 4 to 6. And at this time, you want to, of course, switch the person's name to understand the responsibility that the cross bears for us as Christians. I'll use, where is the most spiritual here? I don't know, Denzel.
Let's go, Denzel.
And so we understand, we put, this passage is about Jesus and, of course, dying for man. But many times, we hear this many times, but we want to make people feel that personally. So at this point, filter out Denzel's name and put your own name in it. Now, surely Jesus took up Denzel's pain and bore Denzel's suffering. Yet we consider Jesus punished by God, stricken by him and afflicted. But Jesus was pierced for Denzel's transgressions. Jesus was crushed for Denzel's iniquities. The punishment that brought Denzel peace was on Jesus. And by Jesus' wounds, Denzel is healed. Denzel, like sheep, has gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way. And the Lord has laid on Jesus, yes, the iniquity of Denzel and us all. It's quite hard for me to do it on the spot. But you get the point. You need to make it feel personal, because this is every man's sin. Do you truly hate your sin enough? We're too selfish to change for ourselves. It's in the new year coming, and so how many of us will put "be fit"? That's gonna be on there. But how many times have we put it on there? How many years have we put that on there? Yet why hasn't it changed? Because changing for yourself, it's too hard. And yet when you call someone, for maybe some of us will have a New Year's resolution of saving more money. And maybe you might never fulfill it. But if you have, and maybe that's your goal. Maybe you didn't fulfill it this year. But say 3 years, 4 years from now, that is still your goal, but now you have a child.
Wow.
You will save money. You will not buy Starbucks coffee. You will walk to work. You will skip meals. You will live in a dingy apartment so you can save some for your new child.
Come on.
You might never change yourself. Maybe you might never be motivated by yourself. But the cross calls for a greater motivation, that you change for God.
Preach. Come on.
And just to wrap things off, you need to be shocked about your sin. It's always very scary when other people hate your sin more than you do. And a great example I always use was Alvin. I'm very grateful he's still here. 3-4 years ago, obviously, I confessed, my impurity in the past. But it's scary to know that the sin that you've committed doesn't hurt you, and someone else has to call you to love God. That someone else was more disgusted, mortified by your sin, than yourself. And as I was confessing these things to my discipler at that time, I've been just going, how dare you? How dare you do this sin? How dare you not even shed a tear when you confess these things? At that time, you're a staff. You're called to read the Bible more. You're called to love God more. And you can barely shed a tear for the things that you've done in the last week, in the last month. How dare you?
Come on, go Alvin.
And when I heard that, obviously, a lot of things have changed. I'm very grateful.
Come on.
But when someone challenges you on your sin, how do you respond? Do you respond with defensiveness? It's not my problem. It's because of this. It's because of this. Or are you immediately cut? And how will you change? And obviously, there's a lot more scriptures in there. And as we study the Bible with someone else, the challenge has always been, you need to feel the weight of the cross. Because that is the only thing. You need to know that Jesus has taken that up for you. And so for the many people that we're studying the Bible with, they're not motivated to read the Bible. They're not motivated to share their faith. They're not motivated to, perhaps come to church. You go, no. We do all of this because of the cross. If the cross doesn't motivate you anymore, then nothing else will motivate you as a Christian. That's the only thing we've got. If we lose it later on as a Christian, get it back at all costs. So the challenge, die to sin and live for righteousness out of gratitude for the cross. You might want to call the person to take time to confess their sin, develop a plan to repent from all these things. And then, I think what helps some of us who are Chinese, and it's very difficult for us to wrap our head around the cross. There's also the medical account of Jesus' crucifixion. Jesus' crucifixion was not just a made-up story. It was founded, later on scientists have found medical proof of what happened, play by play. Or even watch the Passion of the Christ. The brothers watched it last couple weeks ago. Yeah, that was a very different scene. 5 brothers, tissues, a tissue box in hand, and we were all crying. Very different scene. But if it's very difficult for you to cry in the Passion of the Cross, then there might need to be things that might need to be changed. So that's a cross study. Next week is time for the quiz.
Yay.
I know some of you are very sad that you didn't have the quiz today. I'm sorry. Sorry, Finn. Just to tell you the questions, right? So the questions. Question number 1, learn Matthew 28, 18 to 20. Matthew 28, 18 to 20. Question number 2, learn Luke 19, verse 10, which is Jesus came to seek and save the lost. And question number 3, what are the 2 scriptures that are not in the book of Matthew? So in this study, there are 2 passages that are not in the book of Matthew, which is 1 Peter and Isaiah. So go back into the Bible study, and then you'll see it. And question number 4, the final question, learn the books of the Bible from. Let me see. No. They're okay. So after this, next week is the final test. Is the final sermon. So you will have 2 tests left. So I'm dividing the New Testament into 2. So memorize the book of Matthew all the way to Colossians. Sorry, we missed the test, so it's kind of ruined the timeline. Memorize the Old Testament for yourself. If you've been a Christian for 10 years, like that, come on, that should be. Anyway, let's go into the D groups and let's share. Thank you so much.